What was the most unexpected thing you found during a house renovation? Our bathroom started smelling weird in February, this sweet but rotten odor that kept getting worse. Then our cat started acting strange too, just sitting at the stairs growling at nothing, which really freaked us out. We hired Frank to check the walls Monday morning. He cut through the drywall and suddenly went quiet. "You need to see this," he said, his voice different. Someone went to a lot of trouble to hide this. Behind our shower was a metal panel, painted over dozens of times to blend in. Frank pried it open and immediately backed away from the opening. "What the hell is this?" The smell that came out made my eyes water instantly, like chemicals mixed with decay. It was this narrow space with metal shelves along the walls, but the steel table in the middle was what really got me, with leather straps on each corner stained dark brown. Harold had lived here 40 years before dying 6 months ago, and everyone said he was this sweet old guy who always helped with groceries. Under the table I found stacks of notebooks wrapped in plastic. The first one I opened had dates from 15 years ago, with detailed drawings of animal anatomy and surgical procedures. Page after page of meticulous notes about dissection techniques and bone preservation methods. The handwriting was neat, almost obsessive, with measurements and observations filling every margin. Then I found lists of addresses with pet names crossed out next to them. Buddy from Oak Street, Princess from Maple Avenue, dozens of them, all from our neighborhood. The most recent entry was dated just 2 weeks before Harold died, but there were different handwriting styles throughout the notebooks, and some entries seemed impossible given the dates. Frank tapped the floor with his hammer, and it echoed hollow. "There's definitely something underneath this floor." I looked at Jenna, and part of me wanted to just leave it alone, but she was already getting the sledgehammer ready. We broke through the floor, and what erupted made us run outside and puke in the bushes. Frank called 911 while we were still gagging. The police arrived, then hazmat teams in full gear who made us wait across the street. After 3 hours, a detective finally came over to talk to us. "We found freezers in a hidden basement below that room," he said carefully. "They lost power about 2 weeks ago when the backup batteries died. That explained when our problem started. Inside were hundreds of small animal bones, all carefully cleaned and sorted into labeled containers. Each container had a number. Each bone was cataloged, like some twisted collection going back 20 years. The detective showed us photos on his tablet, and my stomach turned seeing how precisely everything was organized. But what made it worse was that some containers had much more recent dates, fresh entries that didn't match Harold's timeline. Someone else had been using this space. The detective kept asking if we'd noticed anyone unusual around the property, but we hadn't seen anything. They found more notebooks hidden in the walls with entries that made no sense. Some were definitely Harold's writing, but others used different pens, different styles, even different languages in places. There were code names instead of real signatures and dates that overlapped in confusing ways. One detective's face went pale when he opened a particular container filled with collars, tags still attached. I recognized several names from missing pet posters I'd seen around the neighborhood over the years. Whiskers, Max, Bella, all pets that vanished without a trace. But the worst part was finding fresh entries dated after Harold's death, written in handwriting none of the forensics people could identify. Someone had been in our house while we lived there. The FBI took over and sealed our house as a crime scene. They wouldn't tell us anything, just kept asking about Harold's visitors and whether we'd heard any strange noises at night. The way they exchanged looks when we said no made it clear they knew something they weren't sharing. They found 3 more hidden spaces we never knew existed, each containing surgical tools and different types of specimens. A forensics expert mentioned that some preservation techniques were highly sophisticated, beyond what a hospital janitor would typically know. The investigation expanded, but they stopped updating us entirely. We were left wondering who else knew about these rooms. We never moved back after they released the house months later. It sits empty now with boarded windows, and no one will buy it. The FBI never told us what they concluded, or if they found who else was involved.